Hi everyone, I'm WOLE-OJOMO, a HR professional and certified coach. Welcome to All Things HR, the place where we provide expert perspectives on all HR matters in the workplace, as well as strategies on how to navigate them. It is no longer news that inflation rates globally have been at an all-time high. In Nigeria, we're talking about over 20% and globally about 9%. Every day we're inundated with reports about it, and financial experts are predicting a financial crisis. World economies are shaky and the effects are hitting hard on businesses across the globe. No doubt this is causing headaches for HR departments locally and globally, and as a key business unit in an organization, HR is in a unique position to observe wider economic impacts on both business and the employees. So joining me today to discuss the role of HR as a strategic partner to organizations during an inflation period is an exceptional business leader and HR executive. I call him a national treasure. Please welcome with me Mr. Wale Adediran. Wale holds a BSc and MSc both in mechanical engineering from the University of Ibadan. He started his career at Procter & Gamble in 1992 as a management trainee. He held various positions across production management, organization excellence, and HR. Wale joined Frigo Glass Group of Industries, a subsidiary of Frigo Glass SAS, Greece, as a HR director for Nigeria operations in 2005. He led various business transformations as the head of human resources function for 7 years. He was then appointed HR director for Guinness Nigeria, a subsidiary of Diageo, in 2012. In 2014, he was appointed HR director for the Flour Mills of Nigeria Group, a position he holds till date. Currently, he serves as the Group Director of HR and General Services. Wale has diverse experiences and he is an astute conference speaker both locally and internationally. He has also won several awards nationally and internationally, including Global HR Excellence Award at HR Congress, Taj Lands, and Mumbai, India. Earlier this year, Wale was awarded the National Productivity Order of Merit, the highest award in Nigeria for civil, public, and private service. Wale is the immediate past president of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. He has served in several other capacities, including vice president and later president and chairman of the Governing Council. He is on the board of United Way Nigeria and the board of trustee of Guinness Foundation. Wale is happily married with children. So welcome to All Things HR, Mr. Wale Adediran.
Thank you for having me, WNC.
Thank you so much. It's a real privilege to have you here. So on the topic on inflation and the role of HR as a strategic partner to organizations, it's no longer news that inflation rates globally have skyrocketed. In Nigeria, we're talking about well over 20%. What does this really mean? And how did we even get here at all?
Well, about what it means, before I even go to that, you said Nigeria is 20% plus.
Yeah.
Food inflation alone is 23% plus. And in neighboring country like Ghana, it's over 40% now. So by the time you understand that this means whatever you've been buying at X Naira or dollars before, you're now paying that additional percentage on it. So you can imagine what it means.
Yeah.
However, I think the impact is even beyond that. People that go to the market know that what they pay is not exactly just X percentage more. You've been paying twice or thrice for some food items in the country. And the impact is enormous indeed. It's enormous. So what does it mean? It means life is more challenging to live. You need to spend more to get the same thing you've been getting before. And because you don't have unlimited fund, what people then do is they cut back on what they get. And I recall when I was in elementary school in those days when we faced this kind of pressure coming from the economy, the concept of 101 or 100, which means you skip some meals during the day. That's what it means.
Yeah, so how did we get it? I mean, globally, some financial experts are saying we're getting into a financial crisis. How did we get in?
It's not a financial crisis per se. How did we get here? Okay. When you look at inflation, it speaks to the balance of forces of supply and demand.
Yeah.
When you supply more and the cost at which you are able to provide what you are supplying is reduced, maybe because you are innovating, there is continuous improvement, then you're able to sell cheaper when you supply more. But when the demand is much higher than supply, then the price will keep rising. And what has caused this imbalance between supply and demand in recent times? We are aware of the COVID pandemic that shut down most of the economies around the world. The inputs that come from China, got disrupted, and the recent event between Russia and Ukraine had added another pain point to it. So the supply of a staple like wheat that comes to Africa, especially, had been interrupted. The major source of staple for northern part of Africa and sub-Saharan Africa as well had been wheat-based flour products like bread, and other derivatives of wheat flour. So the supply had been facing some tightening. So supply chain disruption is major. In addition to that, we now have some local issues as well. Farmers and herders have been having conflict for some time. Then you have the global climate change. So water supply has been an issue. Desertification has been a problem from time anyway. Then you now have the crisis of conflicts, violent conflicts. In Nigeria, you have the Boko Haram situation in the northeast. In the northwest, you have the banditry. In the southeast, you have the agitation and the violence that goes with it. There is every part of not just Nigeria, even the rest of West Africa, Burkina Faso, Mali, conflicts here and there, disrupting the supply chain, especially of food products. And food is in the core inflation estimation. So if you look at inflation in most countries as they report it, food is at the center of it. And that's the major pain point that supply chain had disrupted. So all of that had culminated in shortage in supply. Now you put on top of that the infrastructure deficit. So the logistics of moving the food from the farm to the marketplace is another major cost element in what you pay for the food item in the marketplace. And the supply of fuel to power the vehicles for transporting the food products, the collapsing of road infrastructure that had been over time degenerated, to the state we're in now, where you have some roads that are totally cutting off villages and farms that either to have been the basket of food supply to the country. So you look at all those factors combining together at the same time. Climate change resulting in flooding, violent conflict here and there. Farmers are not able to attend, to their crops. Then you have the infrastructure decay that is making it expensive to move the produce. Then you have the cost of diesel, that fills the vehicles that transport the produce. Then you have the global interruption that's coming from the conflict in Russia, Ukraine, and you had all of those together, and what you end up with is inflation on food products. And when you have inflation on food products, it affects everything else.
So for organizations, I mean, you somewhere in between, you've spoken to manufacturing organizations across different organizations. What's the implication for this?
Anything that affects food affects everybody, irrespective of the industry, whether you're in the banking or sector or the manufacturing sector. So the implication, first of all, for the businesses is, especially for the manufacturing businesses, the cost of inputs into the manufacturing process. In most cases, because they come from the farm, in most cases, the cost escalates. And when the input cost escalates, the implication straight away is your working capital will have to respond to that. You either cut back, just like a normal household would do. You have to prioritize where you focus your spend. And in most cases, what businesses would do is they will cut back on production. When you do that, what then happens is you will have excess capacity, excess manpower, which means you begin to downsize your labor force, and that has implications for the employees as well. Both those that you're letting go and those that are remaining. So it cuts down on economic activities, and when you do that, rather than have your gross domestic product growing as a country, you have it shrinking. And when it shrinks, it's a vicious cycle. People will be out of jobs. They have less to spend. Then the little that is available is also shrunk. And the money that's available will chase the little that is produced. Inflation will go in cycle, and the cycle continues. So it's a far-reaching implication for businesses.
And even for the employees.
For the employees, it's worse.
Yeah.
For businesses, they have the insurance in quotes, or the shock absorbing capacity, because most businesses will have some reserve. The businesses that suffer quickly and could end up, getting phased out are the small and medium enterprises. For the larger businesses, yes, they would shrink in size and they will reduce their activities, but they will still continue to soldier on until the bad situation is over and they can go back to their normal mode of operation. But for the employees, it's far worse. Most employees don't have the buffer, the savings, and the saving culture in this part of the world is not there because we buy everything in cash. I mean, no financing vehicle to support people for major investment. So what then happens is, what employees will have to do is trade off. They will have to select what they will continue to invest on and what will have to wait and what they will have to stop. And we all know that for every single employee that works in this country, there are at least 8 other people that are dependent on that employee. And where you have a situation like this, then it means those 8 dependents will be the first to suffer. And then you come back, the cost of transporting to the office had escalated, the cost of feeding had escalated. All these increases in cost will mean there will be very little left for the employee to take care of other needs. So most of the spend will be on the basic things like food and transport.
So as a professional and as a business leader, what advice, would you be giving to your own business at this time? Particularly the fact that as HR, that's the advantage HR has. You have an insight into the employee's side, you also have an insight into the business side. So what advice?
It's a challenging moment for HR professionals because whichever way you look at it, you have to be the bearer of the bad news, either to the employer or to the employee. On the employer side, the bad news is sorry. What makes logical sense from purely economic point of view is for you to shrink your size to what you can cope with, and that may also by implication mean laying off of some part of the workforce. The bad news that you as a practitioner at this time will have to bring to the table is, look, there's something called ESG now. So it's not just about the financial logic of your decision. It's about the environmental implication, the social implication, as well as governance. So you need to help the businesses understand that they cannot be trigger happy at this time. Meaning, the first lever that business will look at is, look, your volume is shrinking, your revenue is shrinking, shrink the labor force. But it goes beyond that. Shrinking the labor force may mean you are offloading the investments that you've made over the years to develop skills and capabilities that you may not find easily. For unskilled labor, it's less challenging, but they are the bottom of the pyramid, and they bear most of the brunt. We're talking about buffer. They are the ones that don't even have any buffer at all. They live on daily income. So this is where the human face cap has to be worn by HR, meaning not telling your employer to become a charity organization, but finding other areas where this can add value. Yes, it's true that your throughput and your revenue at this time is challenged and is shrinking, but there are values that could be added today that will help accelerate your potential and ability to take the opportunities that will come after this storm is over. So it's about putting on the thinking cap to identify those value creation opportunities and channeling the energy, the intellect of this redundant segment of the workforce into it. It's easier said than done, I know, but where there is a will, there will always be a way. So it's for HR practitioners to help their employers to find those opportunities. I give you an example, and it could look academic. Instead of laying off a unit with people that are highly skilled, why can't the organization chart a project for them to develop capability building materials and framework that could be applied when the storm is over?
Yeah, so changing their roles,
Absolutely.
the content, the job content.
Absolutely. So focusing on new value creation areas. Why can't the organization create them into think tanks that will challenge the way things are done currently and come up with better ways that will help the business to thrive even more when the storm is over? So where there is a will, there will be a way. When the thinking cap is worn, it will work. The other opportunity areas for the business might be, okay, percentage of the population off. Can we take that same percentage of our remuneration across the board and slow it down for everyone? So we all share a bit of it, but engage everyone in one value creation or the other. There are so many things that can be done. It's just a matter of being creative about it. It's not easy, it's tough, but it's a period that will soon pass. And you will need these people again.
In fact, that was what I was about to go to that. Recruiting them becomes more expensive at the end of the day. So whatever you think you think you have saved now, you probably spend.
It's bountifully spending wise.
Yeah.
Because they could go to competition, by the way. They could have been deeply hurt by your abandoning them at this time. So organizations need to show empathy, and that has to be led by HR. Businesses that produce food, for instance, is an opportunity for them to, look at factory gate value of the food, make it available to the employees at this time. Organizations that produce other things that will help the employee reduce the cost of living one way or the other, because the market is shrinking anyway, can make it available to the employees. They can pay for it now or pay over time. a lot of ways by which you can lighten the body.
Yeah, it's really time for HR to put on his or her thinking cap.
Absolutely.
And look straight into the business.
Absolutely.
To see ways beyond what we have always known.
Absolutely.
In fact, it may even go to beyond it's no longer time to copy somebody else's strategy, but to look internally.
You need to know your people, you need to know their peculiarities and what could be helpful to them. Some of them are in phases that are different from the other phases of life that others are facing. So whatever you are doing should be appropriate for the phase of life they are in. Some have young children, some are already grandparents, some are just coming out of school. Whatever will be priority for them at this time, and the pain points that they are facing at this time, you have to find creative ways to show that empathy. Show them it's not transactional, it's not just a matter of, sorry, the business is not doing well, we have to let so many of you go. We did well as a country during the COVID period, and I know we'll do well even now.
Fantastic. Now, more often than not, organizations will quickly want to cut costs. Right? That's usually where they go to. If there are ways, and I know somewhere along the line we've mentioned it, if you're going to take some salary adjustments across board, let's do that to retain everybody. What other ways can organization reduce their cost? I mean, examples, so that HR practitioners listening to this will be
everything we spend on will either be must do, meaning if we don't do it, we can't exist. Good to do, which means if we don't do it, we can exist, but the existence will be somehow, will not be optimal. And then nice to do, which means we would like to look good by doing this. So the other way to illustrate them would be some part of us as an organization, take an organization as a body. Some parts of us are the bones that carry the frame. Some parts are the muscle that gives it some strength. And the other parts are the fat, only gives it that beautiful look. Fat in the right place and all that. At this time, you cut the fat. You cut the fat. I'm not talking about people now. I'm talking about expenses that are non-people. Okay. So, my organization, we drive our culture around that family culture. So, the way the people from southwestern part of Nigeria will talk about Ashwebi. So for every landmark event, we have t-shirts, some kind of Ashwebi. So recently we're challenging ourselves and we said, no more t-shirts, no more Ashwebi, because it is just fat. It is to look, not even nice to have. It's lower than that in my home. So it's like fat. But there are things like printing of documents. So you want to have meetings and you need to print the pre-read so that people are prepared ahead of the meeting to make good contributions. So that one is good to have, okay? But at a time like this, you cut even those good to have. If you don't print the document, how else can people pre-read it and prepare? They can do it on their Android pad or their iOS pad. They can rely on technology. It could even be audio file for them, read loud into their hearing. So you need to analyze all the items that you spend on as a business. Again, I'm not going straight to people because that's the lever that's easiest.
The plug that is easily pulled.
Exactly. So those elements of expense that are not subsistence related for the business. So elements like salary, you need to pay salary. payment for raw materials. You need to pay for raw materials. But, you need to pay for energy. However, what about wastage? Wastage that you could accommodate before, you cannot accommodate at this time. So people are not sitting in a meeting room and the ACs are running. Why do you have to do that? Okay, so normally your raw materials come, and for manufacturing organizations, some bits of the material is lost in the process. This is time to challenge those wastage. So, like I was mentioning earlier, instead of throwing people off the boat, you can take out of those people, challenge them with waste reduction projects. You tell them, look, we don't have a job for you now. However, if you're able to reduce waste in this particular area by just 0.5% of what it is today, or by just 10% of what it is today, we will save so much money, out of which you will get that. So it's more like they are now engaged on a different kind of contract, which is related to the savings that they make. So we'll pay you this fixed amount, which is far lower than what you were earning before. However, you can earn even much more than what you were earning before if you succeed at this project. So you can identify waste that you have to reduce. You can identify expenses like the T-shirt thing that I mentioned that you don't have to have. You can look at some of the contracts that you have with some of your trade partners, suppliers, and challenge those contracts again. The way we negotiate when things are rosy and easy is, let's just, okay, we can afford it. We think about affordability. We can afford it. Just pay them. Let them go. Live and live. Now you go back to those people. If you are shrinking and you're at the edge of letting off your people, then you sit down with your partners as well and challenge them. So all these creative ways will reduce costs. It will take out the fat. It will even cut some of the muscle. It's okay to cut some of the muscle. You will grow them back, but you don't touch the bones.
Fantastic, interesting. Now, we've been talking about letting people go and trying to retain people. In recent times, we are very much aware of the attrition rates that have skyrocketed, and people have abandoned their jobs. Recruitment has been very, very tough. Replacing people who have left has also been very tough.
Absolutely.
Now, what kind of strategies would you advise or would you share with HR professionals that they can adopt to attract the very, very important recruitment drives that they need to do?
Unfortunately, they can only build for the future now. It's too late. And what do I mean by that? This is the time that your reputation as an organization would pay back. So, if your employees are not ambassadors of the company, what strategy will you deploy now in the marketplace that will attract talents, especially in those areas of specialist skills that are rare, those ones that are prone to Japa
technology.
So technology.
Yeah.
So many banks are suffering now. So many telcos are suffering now. And you see service disruption here and there, errors and losses as a result. It's because, in any case, in good times, these organizations are not being good to those professionals. And, well, for them, thank goodness, this situation came and they just have to leave anyway. So for organizations that have the right culture, it is your employees, and well, if you see that as a strategy, I see it as just deploying what you already have. It's your employees that can be your ambassador, speak for you, and get others interested in you. My workplace, my colleagues will always speak about, well, we don't pay like the oil companies of this world. We pay a salary. We don't pay suicide salary, but we genuinely care about people. We genuinely care about people. Talking about ways you can support your employees at this time. In my office, for those who are not in the factories, who are in the peripheral and the offices, who could actually work remotely, we give them sufficient time to work remotely. In some units, you work 1 week in the office and 1 week at home. Why is that important? We know that the cost of coming to the office is high. So they save money. What they've been spending before in transporting themselves to and fro work, they now cut by 50%. That is an attraction for them. When their neighbors or friends or colleagues see them at home, and ask them why they're not going to work, they will give testimony of how much they're saving and whether they're still able to contribute positively to the business. Even for those that are in the factory, they are allowed to break into cells so that you don't have everybody, especially during the COVID period. And we've learned from that experience that you can actually do it, where you take a team, you break them into smaller cells, and they agree on which cell will be in the office and stretch themselves to cover other people's areas, while the other cell is at home. And with that, they have less trips to make to the office, especially for me, whose office is in a Apapa that's very difficult to reach. So it's the testimonies of those employees that will attract great talents. That's number one. Number two, how well you manage or help your employees to manage this situation will reflect in your performance, and people will notice that, definitely. So a combination of what people say, especially your own people, your own employees, what they say about what is happening in their office, as well as the result they see, will definitely attract great talents. And even for those that are under pressure to japa, they do plead, please, sir, can we work from where we are? And even when you tell them ethically it doesn't work, they will still insist on, okay, fine, don't worry, don't pay me anymore, but you need anything, let me know, I will do what I can to support you. That's a
testimonial of a great place to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. So for HR leaders who don't have such opportunities, this is another opportunity to build.
To start building now.
To start building, or not just HR professionals, but business owners, business leaders. Yes. If at this time you don't have your people,
that care, that empathy, and by the way, you can people you don't have. I think I'm fortunate to work for a business where the founder, the owner, is like a father, is papa to everybody, genuinely cared. Business that started over 62 years ago, he labored, genuinely cared for the people, and he entrenched that culture. And that culture is still there. We're performance driven, but you don't kill a family member just because of performance. Come on. And they do more to help you achieve great performance when they know you can.